Mr. Jack, what was your childhood like?
Well, I'm 93 years old, so it started 93 years ago. I grew up in Miami, Florida. My father was the United States Marshal there, and Miami is very in the tropics. So I started swimming very early, and when I was very young, a famous Olympic swimmer saw me in a swimming pool and went over to my mother and said, he's going to be a good swimmer. I'd like to teach him. So she started coaching me, so I swam in high school and college, and swimming became a big part of my life.
Mr. Jack, what was your favorite subject in school?
Early in life, I became fascinated by the life of Christopher Columbus, the discoverer of America. So I started collecting books, reading about him, and I read about him and collected books. I finally had so many books that I had to give a bunch of them to the library. I still have about 50 or 60 volumes. And when I have memory problems now at 93, the doctor tells me if you didn't know so much about Columbus in your brain, you would probably have a little better memory.
Mr. Jack, what was your favorite job?
One of my favorite jobs was being a soldier. The second best job I ever had was when I was very young. I was 28 years old. Governor Collins appointed me to his cabinet, and I served for 2 years on his cabinet. And he went around the country bragging that I was the youngest statewide official in the United States. I don't know whether that was true or not. Just before I was ready to enter law school, the Korean War broke out. I went to Korea. Before I went to Korea, I went to jump school to become a paratrooper. I became a platoon leader of the 3rd Platoon of King Company and the Wolfhound Regiment, probably the most famous fighting regiment in the American Army. And while I was there, I was wounded a couple of times, and I got a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star for Valor.
Mr. Jack, how have you been involved in your community?
My grandfather, when I was about your age, taught me that we owed an obligation in life to take whatever skills we had and apply them to help other people. So early on, I developed this idea that I needed to be able to help other people out and do things to help generally. When I started practicing law here in Tallahassee, I got involved in every community activity that you can imagine. The main thing was the homeless issue. I was general counsel, senior counsel to Governor Childs.
Mr. Jack, when did you retire from your career?
Well, I didn't retire, Seraphina. In fact, I haven't even slowed down. And if anything, I've sped up a little bit. I'm still practicing law, very actively, enjoying it, and continue to do my community work.
Mr. Jack, tell me about your aviation career. Were you ever afraid?
When I was very young, I had an uncle who was an aviator. He had an air show. So when I was 17 years old, I was sent over to him to learn how to fly. Neither my father nor my mother were afraid of anything, nothing. They knew nothing about fear. And so that's how I decided to jump out of airplanes and fly airplanes and fight in wars and do all the things that are dangerous, because I was constantly confronting fear. I felt like it was an obligation for me to overcome fear.